Commander Jake Morrison stared at the monitor screen, watching numbers scroll past in green text. The coffee in his mug had gone cold hours ago, but he kept sipping it anyway. Outside the windows of the Deep Space Monitoring Station, the Colorado mountains stretched into the distance under a clear blue sky. It was supposed to be a quiet Tuesday morning. Jake had been running this facility for 3 years, and most days were exactly the same. His team tracked satellites, monitored space debris, and occasionally spotted a meteor that might make the news. Nothing exciting ever happened at the monitoring station. That changed at exactly 10:47 a.m. "Commander Morrison, you need to see this." Dr. Lisa Chen looked up from her workstation, her dark hair falling across her face. She was the station's best scientist, specializing in studying anything unusual that came from space. Her voice sounded different today, higher pitched with excitement or worry. Jake walked over to her desk, setting down his cold coffee. The screen showed a radar display with a small blip, moving fast across the grid. "Too fast to be normal. What am I looking at, Lisa?" "Unknown object, sir." It came out of nowhere about 5 minutes ago. "Look at this speed reading." She pointed to numbers on the side of the screen. "That thing is moving faster than anything we've ever tracked." "And it's slowing down." Jake frowned. "Slowing down? Meteors don't slow down." "Exactly. And look at this trajectory." Lisa switched to another screen showing a curved line across a map. "It's not following a normal orbital path. It's like something is controlling it." Captain Ben Walsh appeared beside them, drawn by their conversation. Ben ran security for the station and had the kind of sharp eyes that missed nothing. He studied the screen for a moment before speaking. "Where's it heading?" Lisa typed quickly, running calculations. "If it maintains current course and speed, it'll impact somewhere in the northern Colorado mountains. Maybe 40 miles from here." "Impact?" Jake felt his stomach tighten. "How big is this thing?" "Small. Maybe the size of a car based on the radar signature. But Commander, I don't think this is space debris. The way it's moving, the way it's slowing down, it looks like a controlled descent." The three of them stood quietly for a moment, watching the blip continue its path toward the mountains. Jake had trained for many situations during his military career, but this wasn't one of them. "Ben, get a recovery team ready. Full hazmat gear, radiation detectors, the works. Lisa, keep tracking it. I want to know exactly where this thing comes down." "Yes, sir." Ben headed toward the communications room to gather his team. Lisa's fingers flew across her keyboard. "Commander, I'm picking up some kind of energy signature from the object. It's faint, but it's definitely artificial. This isn't a rock from space." Jake felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. "What are you saying, Lisa?" "I'm saying this might be our first real contact with something not from Earth." The next hour passed in a blur of activity. The unknown object crashed into a remote valley in the mountains, sending up a small mushroom cloud of dust and debris. Ben's recovery team loaded their vehicles with equipment and headed out immediately. Following GPS coordinates that Lisa provided, Jake stayed at the station, coordinating with various government agencies who suddenly showed great interest in their quiet monitoring post. The phone rang constantly with officials demanding updates, but Jake had little to tell them. They would know more when Ben's team reached the crash site. "Commander, I've got Ben on the radio," called Maria Santos from the communication station. She was young but reliable, and her voice carried clearly across the control room. "Put him on speaker." Ben's voice crackled through static. "Morrison, you're not going to believe this. We found the crash site, and there's definitely a vehicle here, but it's not like anything I've ever seen before." "Describe it." "It's small, maybe 12 feet long, 8 feet wide. The hull is some kind of metal that shifts colors in the sunlight. Blue to silver to almost transparent. And Jake, the interesting part is it's not completely destroyed. Part of it is still intact." Lisa looked up from her instruments. "Any radiation?" "Negative on radiation. But we're reading some kind of low-level energy field around the wreckage. And there's an opening in the side that looks like a door." Jake made a decision that would change everything. "Ben, I want you to approach carefully. Full protective gear. If there's any sign of danger, back off immediately." "Copy that. Moving in now." The radio went quiet for several long minutes. Jake paced behind the communication station while Lisa monitored her instruments and Maria kept the channel open. Finally, Ben's voice returned, but it sounded different. Shocked. "Commander, we found someone. There's a person inside this craft, but I don't think she's human." "Explain." She's unconscious, maybe injured. Definitely alive. But Jake, her skin is silver blue and her limbs are longer than they should be. Her face is almost human, but not quite. And her eyes, when they fluttered open for a second, they're huge and completely dark. Jake felt the world shift around him. Everything they thought they knew about humanity's place in the universe had just changed. Is she dangerous? She looks hurt, sir. Whatever happened when this ship crashed, she took a beating. My medic says she needs help soon or she might not make it. Bring her back to the station. Full quarantine protocols, but treat her as a patient, not a prisoner. Understood. We'll be there in an hour. Jake ended the call and looked around the control room. Lisa stared at him with wide eyes while Maria had her hand over her mouth in shock. Outside, the mountains looked exactly the same as they had that morning, but everything was different now. Lisa, I want you to prepare the medical bay for a patient unlike anything we've ever seen. Maria, start recording everything. Every detail, every conversation, every decision we make. This is the most important day in human history. As Ben's team made their way back through the mountains carrying their unexpected visitor, none of them knew that this was just the beginning. High above Earth's atmosphere, automated systems had detected the crash and were already sending signals across vast distances of space. The alien woman hadn't meant to come to Earth, but now that she was here, leaving might not be possible, and that was going to change everything for both her and humanity. 3 days had passed since the crash, and the alien woman was finally awake. Jake Morrison stood outside the medical bay, watching through the reinforced glass window as Dr. Lisa Chen tried to communicate with their unexpected visitor. The woman sat up in the hospital bed, her silver blue skin catching the fluorescent lights in ways that seemed almost magical. Her large dark eyes moved constantly, taking in every detail of the room with what looked like curiosity rather than fear. When she looked at Lisa, there was something almost human in her expression. Any progress? Jake asked as Lisa stepped out of the room. Some. She's incredibly intelligent, Jake. Watch this. Lisa went back inside and picked up a tablet computer. She showed the woman a simple mathematical equation. The woman looked at the screen for only a moment before pointing to the number 4. Lisa smiled and tried something harder. 15x 7. Her. Again, the woman answered correctly in seconds, pointing to 105. But then she did something unexpected. She took the tablet from Lisa's hands and wrote her own equation, a complex formula that looked like advanced physics. She solved quantum mechanics problems yesterday, Lisa said when she came back out. Problems that would take our best scientists hours to work through. Jake shook his head in amazement. What about language? That's where it gets interesting. She's picking up English faster than should be possible. Yesterday she could only point and gesture. This morning she said thank you when Maria brought her breakfast. Clear as day. Have you figured out what happened to her ship? Lisa's expression darkened. That's the concerning part. The wreckage isn't just damaged from the crash. There are burn marks that suggest the ship was deliberately destroyed. And Jake, it wasn't destroyed by the impact. It was destroyed remotely about an hour after Ben's team pulled her out. Remotely? By who? That's what we need to figure out. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of General Patricia Stone, a stern woman in military uniform who had driven up from Colorado Springs that morning. She brought with her an attitude that Jake immediately disliked. Commander Morrison, I'm here to take custody of your alien. She's not my alien, General. She's an injured person under our protection. She's a potential threat to national security. My orders are to transfer her to a secure facility where she can be properly questioned. Jake stepped closer to the general, keeping his voice calm but firm. With respect, General, she's not going anywhere until she's fully recovered. And even then, she's not a prisoner. That's not your decision to make, Commander. Actually, it is. This facility falls under Space Command jurisdiction, and I'm the ranking officer here. Unless you have orders directly from Space Command, she stays put. General Stone's face reddened, but before she could respond, a commotion came from the medical bay. Through the window, they could see the alien woman standing by the bed, gesturing excitedly at the tablet computer. Lisa rushed back into the room, followed by Jake and the general. The woman was pointing at the screen where she had drawn what looked like a star map. She looked directly at Jake and spoke in heavily accented but clear English. Home, cannot go. Broken. She pointed to herself, then to the drawing. Severed. Severed from what? Lisa asked gently. The woman struggled with the words. My people. Ship destroyed so I cannot return. I am exiled? Yes, exiled. Jake felt a chill. Why were you exiled? Not supposed to meet you. Humans not supposed to exist yet. I made mistake. General Stone stepped forward aggressively. What do you mean, not supposed to exist yet? How long have your people been watching us? The woman looked at the general with those large dark eyes and seemed to make a decision. Long time, very long. Your species develops too fast. We thought you needed more centuries. We need centuries for what? Jake asked. To be ready for contact. Most species take much longer to reach stars. Humans did it in... She paused, searching for words. In blink of eye. Lisa grabbed a chair and sat down across from the woman. What's your name? The woman made a sound that was like music and wind chimes combined. Seeing their confused expressions, she tried again. You cannot say true name. Call me, Zara. I heard this name in your communications. Zara, Lisa repeated. That's a beautiful name. I'm Lisa, this is Jake, and the angry woman is General Stone. Zara almost smiled at that description. Lisa, Jake, General Angry Woman. Despite everything, Jake found himself fighting back a laugh. General Stone was not amused. How many of your people are out there? The general demanded. Zara's expression became serious. Many, very many. We are called the Eternal Reach. We have watched over this part of galaxy for longer than your species has existed. Watched over? Jake asked. Like guardians? Sometimes. When species destroy themselves, we help. When they threaten others, we stop them. When they are ready, we invite them to join us. And we're not ready. We're not ready. Now, I do not know. Zara looked around the room. You help injured stranger from sky. You give medical care, food, kindness. This is good sign. Maria Santos appeared in the doorway looking excited. Commander, you need to come see this. Long-range sensors are picking up something big heading our way. Jake's stomach dropped. How big? Multiple contacts, sir. At least 5 ships, maybe more. They're still days out, but they're definitely heading for Earth. Zara heard this, and her silver-blue skin seemed to pale further. They come for me. The Severing Court. Who's the Severing Court? Lisa asked. They enforce isolation rules. They will take me and... She struggled with the words. They will remove evidence of contact. What does that mean, remove evidence? Jake asked, though he was afraid he already knew. Zara looked at him with those enormous dark eyes, and he saw fear there for the first time. They will destroy your civilization to keep secrets safe. General Stone stepped forward. Then give us weapons to fight them, technology, help us defend ourselves. I cannot. Even if I could, you are not advanced enough. They have ships that could destroy your planet from orbit. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Humanity's first contact had turned into a potential death sentence for the entire species. How long do we have? He asked. Few days. Maybe a week. Then we need to figure out a solution fast. Jake turned to Lisa. Get everything Zara's willing to tell us about these Severing Court people. Their capabilities, their weaknesses, anything that might help. He looked at General Stone. And General, you might want to call Washington. Tell them we need every brilliant mind and every resource this country has. Because if Zara's right, we're about to fight for the survival of our entire species. There might be one hope, Zara said quietly. Your people learn fast, faster than any species we have seen, maybe fast enough to surprise the court. What do you mean? In 3 days you taught me your language. Perhaps I can teach you some of mine. And perhaps together, we find solution that neither of us could find alone. Jake looked at the alien woman who had accidentally become humanity's only hope for survival. Then we better get started. Outside the medical bay, Maria was tracking the approaching ships on her instruments. The alien woman didn't want to enter their world, but now she couldn't leave. And because of that accident, humanity was about to face its greatest challenge ever. Fleet Admiral Robert Hayes arrived at the monitoring station with an entire convoy of military vehicles. Jake Morrison watched from his office window as soldiers and scientists poured out of trucks, turning his quiet facility into a hive of activity. The approaching alien ships had gotten everyone's attention. Commander Morrison? A young lieutenant knocked on his door. Admiral Hayes requests your immediate presence in the main conference room. Jake found the conference room packed with people he didn't recognize. Military officers, government officials, and scientists crowded around tables covered with papers and laptop computers. At the head of the room stood Admiral Hayes, a tall man with gray hair and hard eyes. Commander, thank you for joining us. I understand you've been in charge of our alien guest. Her name is Zara, sir. And yes, she's been helping us understand what we're facing. Good, because what we're facing is 5 enemy ships that could destroy every major city on Earth before we could even respond. Hayes pointed to a large screen showing radar tracks. Our satellites have been monitoring their approach. They'll be here in 4 days. Dr. Lisa Chen entered the room with Zara beside her. The alien woman looked uncomfortable with so many people staring at her, but she stood straight and calm. Several of the officials muttered to each other, seeing an actual alien for the first time. Zara, Admiral Hayes said, his voice formal but not unfriendly. We need to know everything about these Severing Court ships. Their weapons, their defenses, any weaknesses you can tell us about. Zara nodded. I will help. But you must understand, the Severing Court has technology thousands of years more advanced than yours. Their ships can destroy planets. A scientist in the back of the room raised his hand. Then how do we fight them? You do not fight them, Zara said simply. No one fights the Severing Court. They enforce the isolation laws and they have never failed. The room fell silent. Jake could see the fear on people's faces, but he also saw something else. Determination. Humans had always been stubborn when told something was impossible. Zara, he said, you told me yesterday that humans learn fast, faster than other species. What did you mean? Most species in the Reach develop slowly. They perfect one technology before moving to the next. They think in straight lines. Zara looked around the room. Humans think in... She struggled for the word. Circles? Suggested Lisa. Spirals. Yes, spirals. You take ideas from everywhere. Combine them in new ways. Yesterday, Dr. Kenny showed me human mathematics. You use numbers differently than we do. Not better, not worse, but differently. Dr. Kenny Park, a young engineer, stepped forward. I've been studying the wreckage from Zara's ship. She's right about the technology gap. But there's something interesting. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it's also incredibly specialized. Everything has one specific purpose. Explain, Admiral Hayes said. Human technology is messy, sir. We make things that work in multiple ways that can be modified, that break in useful ways. Their technology is perfect, but it can only do exactly what it was designed for. Zara nodded eagerly. Yes, this is what I try to say. Reach technology has no flexibility, offered Maria Santos from her position by the communications equipment. Flexibility. Your word, yes. Reach ships are perfect for what they do, but they cannot adapt. Jake felt a spark of hope. Zara, could you help us understand their technology well enough to maybe improvise something? I can try. But even if you understand, you still lack materials, tools, time. Captain Ben Walsh, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. Admiral, what about nuclear weapons? If we can't fight their technology, maybe we overwhelm them with sheer firepower. Admiral Hayes shook his head. Already considered. According to our intelligence, their ships have defensive shields that could handle anything we throw at them. Shields, Zara confirmed. Energy barriers that stop all weapons. Nothing can penetrate them. Nothing? Lisa asked. There must be some weakness. Zara paused, thinking. Shields are designed to stop energy weapons, projectiles, explosives. They are perfect defense against known threats. What about unknown threats? Kenny asked. I do not understand. Kenny's eyes lit up. Zara, do their shields adapt to new types of attacks? No, they are programmed to stop specific things. Why would they need to adapt? All species use same basic weapons. But humans don't use basic weapons, Jake said, understanding where Kenny was going. We use whatever works. The next few hours turned into an intense brainstorming session. Zara patiently answered questions about Severing Court technology, while human scientists and engineers proposed increasingly creative solutions. Most ideas were impossible with current technology, but a few began to show promise. Their ships navigate using quantum field manipulation, Zara explained to a group gathered around a whiteboard. They create tunnels through space-time. What happens if the tunnel collapses while they're using it? Asked Dr. Lisa Chen. Ship is destroyed, but tunnels do not collapse. The mathematics are perfect. Perfect for normal conditions, Kenny said. But what about abnormal conditions? What if we introduce variables their equations don't account for? Lieutenant Carol Brooks, who had been assigned to Zara's protection detail, raised her hand. Excuse me, but I'm just a soldier, not a scientist. Could someone explain this in simple terms? Jake smiled. Carol's right. Let's step back. Zara, in simple words, how do their ships work? They bend space to move quickly. They use energy shields for protection. They fire beams that destroy matter at the molecular level. And they expect us to fight using energy weapons and missiles, right? Yes, that is how space battles work. But what if we don't fight a space battle? Jake asked. What if we fight a human battle? Admiral Hayes leaned forward. What do you have in mind, Commander? I'm thinking about asymmetric warfare, sir. We can't match their technology, but maybe we don't need to. Maybe we just need to do something they don't expect. Over the next day, a plan began to take shape. It was desperate, risky, and probably suicidal, but it was also completely human in its approach. Instead of trying to build better weapons, they would use the enemy's perfection against them. Zara worked closely with Kenny and Lisa, sharing everything she knew about severing court technology. Her people's knowledge combined with human creativity produced ideas that neither species could have developed alone. This might actually work, Lisa said, looking at their calculations. It's insane, but it might work. The court will not expect it, Zara agreed. Your people think in ways that would never occur to the Reach. But are you certain you want to try this? If you fail, they will destroy Earth immediately. Jake looked around the room at the faces of his people, tired, worried, but determined. Zara, you said humans develop too fast, that we're not ready for contact with your people. Maybe you're right, but we're also not ready to give up without a fight. Even if the fight is hopeless, especially then, Jake said. That's when humans are most dangerous. Maria called from her station. Admiral, I'm getting reports from observatories worldwide. The alien ships have been detected by civilian astronomers. The news is starting to leak. Admiral Hayes nodded grimly. Then we're committed now. Commander Morrison, how long do we need to implement this plan of yours? 2 days, sir. Maybe 3 if we're lucky. You have 2 days. God help us all. As the room emptied and teams rushed to begin preparations, Zara approached Jake. Jake Morrison, I am sorry. If I had not crashed on your world, your people would be safe. If you hadn't crashed here, we would never have known danger was coming until it was too late. Jake replied. Besides, maybe this was supposed to happen. Maybe the universe decided it was time for humans and the eternal Reach to meet, ready or not. Zara looked at him with those large, dark eyes. You really believe you can defeat ships that have never been defeated? Jake smiled. Zara, we're humans. We don't know enough to believe something is impossible until after we've already done it. Outside, the first pieces of their impossible plan were already being put into motion. The alien woman who never meant to come to Earth was about to help humanity attempt the most audacious defense in history. The severing court ships appeared exactly when Zara predicted they would. Jake Morrison stood in the command center, watching the main display as 5 massive vessels took positions around Earth. They were beautiful in a terrifying way, sleek and dark against the backdrop of stars. My God, whispered Dr. Lisa Chen. They're enormous. Each ship was easily the size of a small city, their hulls reflecting no light at all. They moved with impossible grace, sliding into formation around Earth like sharks circling their prey. Admiral Hayes spoke into his headset. All stations, this is Control. Initiate Operation Longshot. Across the globe, human forces began implementing the most desperate plan in military history. It wasn't really a battle plan at all, but rather an elaborate magic trick designed by scientists and soldiers working together. Zara stood beside Jake, her silver-blue skin pale with worry. The lead ship is trying to communicate with your government. They will demand my return and Earth silence about contact. What happens when we say no? They will demonstrate their power. Probably by destroying one of your cities. Jake felt sick. Which city? It does not matter to them. They choose randomly to show that resistance is pointless. On the communications channel, Maria's voice crackled through. Commander, we're receiving a transmission. It's being broadcast to every government on Earth simultaneously. Put it on speaker. A voice filled the command center, speaking perfect English with no accent at all. It sounded human but somehow empty, like a computer trying to mimic emotion. People of Earth. We are the severing court of the eternal Reach. You have inadvertently made contact with one of our citizens. This contact violates fundamental laws that have maintained peace in this galaxy for millennia. The transmission continued. We require the immediate return of our citizen and the complete destruction of all records related to this contact. In exchange, we offer you advanced medical technology that will extend your lifespans and eliminate disease. Jake looked at Zara. Are they serious about the medical technology? Yes, it is standard compensation for species that cooperate with isolation protocols. And if we don't cooperate? The alien voice answered his question. Failure to comply will result in the sterilization of your planet. You have 1 of your hours to decide. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in silence. Admiral Hayes activated his microphone. All teams, you heard the timeline. 1 hour to make this work or we're all dead. Begin final preparations. Around the world, the most unusual military operation in human history swung into action. Instead of weapons and soldiers, it involved musicians, artists, mathematicians, and computer programmers. The plan was so strange that even Jake wasn't sure it would work. Zara, he said, are you absolutely certain their shields can't adapt to new types of attacks? Certain. The Reach perfected shield technology millions of years ago. They have not needed to improve it because all species use the same weapons. What about information attacks? I do not understand this term. Dr. Kenny Park looked up from his computer station. Zara, your people's technology is incredibly advanced, but it's also incredibly complex. That complexity requires massive computational systems to manage everything, right? Yes, ship minds control all functions. Ship minds. Like artificial intelligence? More than artificial. Ship minds are conscious beings created specifically to operate severing court vessels. They are perfect for their purpose. Kenny grinned. Perfect. That's their weakness right there. How is perfection a weakness? Asked Lieutenant Carol Brooks. Because perfect systems can't handle imperfection, Lisa explained. If their ship minds are designed to operate perfect technology perfectly, what happens when you introduce something completely imperfect? Like human music, Maria added with a smile. It had started as a joke during the brainstorming sessions. Someone had mentioned that human art and music were chaotic, unpredictable, and full of patterns that didn't follow logical rules. Zara had been fascinated by a jazz recording, unable to understand how humans could create something so complex yet seemingly random. Your music has mathematics, she had explained, but mathematics that should not work. It creates emotions in ways that Reach science cannot explain. That comment had sparked an idea so crazy that it might actually succeed. All stations report ready, Admiral Hayes announced. Dr. Chen, initiate first phase. Lisa activated her equipment. Around the world, radio telescopes and satellite dishes turned toward the severing court ships. But instead of trying to communicate or attack, they began broadcasting something completely unexpected: human music. Not just any music, but the most complex, emotionally rich, mathematically impossible music humanity had ever created. Jazz, classical symphonies, rock concerts, folk songs, electronic compositions, and experimental pieces that pushed the boundaries of what could be called music at all. Phase 1 active, Lisa reported. All transmissions are being received by the alien ships. On the display, the severing court vessels remained motionless, showing no reaction to the musical bombardment. How will we know if it's working? Carol asked. Ship minds will try to analyze the music, Zara explained, her voice tense. They must understand everything that enters their systems. But human music cannot be understood by Reach mathematics. What happens when a perfect computer tries to solve an impossible problem? Kenny asked. It keeps trying until it overloads, Jake answered. Initiate phase 2. The second phase was even stranger than the first. Along with the music, Earth began broadcasting human art, literature, and mathematical theories. Paintings by Picasso, poems by Shakespeare, the complete works of Stephen King, and mathematical proofs that used intuition instead of pure logic. The ship minds are trying to process everything we're sending them, Lisa reported, monitoring the alien vessel's energy signatures. Their computational systems are working harder than ever before. Any sign of shield weakness? Admiral Hayes asked. Not yet, sir. But something's happening. Look at this energy reading. On her screen, chaotic patterns danced across the display. The neat, orderly power signatures from the severing court ships were becoming erratic. Zara stared at the readings in amazement. Impossible. Ship minds do not show confusion. They are perfect. Nobody's perfect when they try to understand jazz, Maria said. Initiate phase 3, Jake ordered. The final phase was the most audacious part of their plan. Every human being on Earth who could access a radio, television, or internet connection began broadcasting their own contributions to the chaos. Children singing nursery rhymes, teenagers playing music, adults telling jokes, elderly people sharing stories, 7 billion human voices, each one unique and impossible to predict, flooded the severing courtships with the pure, chaotic creativity that made humanity special. Energy signatures are going critical, Lisa reported. The ship minds are overloading trying to process everything we're sending them. On the main display, the alien ships began to behave erratically. Their perfect formation dissolved as they struggled to maintain control of systems that were no longer responding predictably. "This is actually working," Admiral Hayes said in amazement. "Their shields are fluctuating." "Now," Jake ordered. "Launch everything we have." It wasn't a traditional attack. Instead of nuclear missiles or energy weapons, Earth launched thousands of small probes carrying more human creativity. Each probe contained music, art, literature, and personal messages from ordinary people around the world. The probes had no weapons, no advanced technology, nothing that should threaten ships capable of destroying planets, but they carried something the Severing Court had never encountered: pure human chaos. As the probes reached the alien ships, their overloaded shield systems finally collapsed completely. The ship minds, trying desperately to analyze and understand humanity's creative output, could no longer maintain basic functions. One by one, the 5 Severing Court vessels began drifting helplessly in space, their perfect technology defeated by the most imperfect species in the galaxy. "Ships are disabled," Lisa reported, her voice filled with wonder. "They're still alive, but they can't fight, can't flee, can't even communicate properly." Jake looked at Zara, who was staring at the display with her large, dark eyes wide with shock. "Your people," she whispered, "just defeated the most powerful force in the galaxy with songs and stories." "And finger paintings," Maria added. "Don't forget the finger paintings from the elementary school in Denver." Before anyone could celebrate, new signals appeared on long-range sensors. More ships were approaching Earth, but these moved differently, less aggressively. "Zara," Jake asked, "who else might be coming?" A smile crossed Zara's alien features for the first time since her arrival. "I believe, Jake Morrison, your people are about to meet the Progressive Assembly, and after what you just accomplished, I think they are going to be very interested in talking." The impossible had happened. Humanity had won its first interstellar conflict not through superior weapons or technology, but by being perfectly, chaotically, creatively human. The new ships that arrived were different from the Severing Court vessels. Where the court ships had been dark and threatening, these newcomers were bright and welcoming, their hulls shimmering with colors that shifted like oil on water. Jake Morrison stood in the main conference room, which had been hastily converted into humanity's first diplomatic meeting with an alien civilization. President Helen Morrison, his younger sister who had flown in from Washington, sat at the head of the table representing Earth's governments. "I still can't believe my big brother started an interstellar war," Helen said quietly as they waited for the alien delegates to arrive. "I didn't start it," Jake replied. "I just finished it." Zara entered the room with Dr. Lisa Chen looking more relaxed than she had since her arrival. Her silver blue skin seemed to glow with excitement as she spoke with Lisa about the arriving ships. "The Progressive Assembly has been waiting for something like this for centuries," Zara explained to the assembled humans. "They believe the Eternal Reach has become too rigid, too afraid of change. Your victory over the Severing Court proves their point." Admiral Hayes leaned forward. "What exactly do they want from us?" "Partnership. The Reach has stagnated because we perfected everything long ago. There are problems we cannot solve because we cannot think of new solutions. But humans think differently." The room's main screen activated, showing the interior of one of the Progressive Assembly ships. A figure appeared that looked similar to Zara but older, with skin that shifted between silver and gold. When he spoke, his voice was warm and musical. "Greetings, people of Earth. I am Envoy Kethvar of the Progressive Assembly. We come in friendship and wonder at your remarkable achievement." President Morrison stepped forward. "Welcome to Earth, Envoy Kethvar. I'm President Helen Morrison, representing the governments of Earth." "President Morrison, your species has accomplished something unprecedented. You have defeated the Severing Court not through force but through creativity. This demonstrates capabilities we have been searching for throughout the galaxy." Dr. Ray Johnson, A neuroscientist who had been studying Zara's brain patterns raised his hand. Envoy, can you explain what makes human thinking so different? The alien envoy paused thoughtfully. Dr. Johnson, most species in the Reach evolved for specific environments. They developed intelligence suited to their particular worlds and challenges. Humans are unique because your species evolved for constant change. What do you mean? Asked Kenny Park. Your planet Earth has experienced more environmental changes than most worlds. Ice ages, meteor impacts, volcanic eruptions, climate shifts. Species that survived on Earth had to adapt constantly. This created brains that are exceptionally flexible. Lisa looked fascinated. So human creativity isn't just cultural, it's biological. Precisely. Other species perfect solutions and keep them forever. Humans create solutions, then immediately look for better ones. This drives your rapid technological development and your ability to find new approaches to old problems. President Morrison leaned back in her chair. And you want our help with problems the Eternal Reach can't solve? Many problems, Kethvar confirmed. Our civilization has existed for millions of years, but we have also been essentially unchanged for millions of years. We have perfect technology, perfect societies, perfect peace, but perfection has made us unable to grow. Jake frowned. What kind of problems are you facing? Our population declines because perfect beings see no reason to reproduce. Our scientists make no discoveries because everything discoverable has been discovered. Our artists create nothing new because all possible art has been created. We are dying of our own success. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. You want us to help you become more human? Maria Santos asked. In a sense, yes. Not to make you more like us, but to learn from your approach to existence. Your chaos, your imperfection, your constant dissatisfaction with the status quo. Zara stepped forward. This is why the Severing Court wanted to isolate humanity. They saw that contact with your species would change the Reach forever. And you're okay with that change? President Morrison asked Kethvar. We welcome it. The alternative is slow extinction through perfection. Over the next several hours, they worked out the basic framework of an agreement. Humanity would be granted membership in the Eternal Reach as equal partners, not subjects. Earth would become a center for innovation and creative problem-solving, with humans working alongside alien species on projects that had stagnated for millennia. In return, the Reach would share their technology gradually, ensuring humanity could adapt without losing the very characteristics that made them valuable. Medical advances, space travel, clean energy, and solutions to Earth's environmental problems would be introduced over decades rather than all at once. What about the Severing Court ships? Admiral Hayes asked. They're still disabled in orbit. Their ship minds will recover eventually, Kethvar explained. But they have been exposed to human creativity in ways that will permanently change their thinking. They will return to the Reach as advocates for contact rather than isolation. And if other factions object to this arrangement? President Morrison asked. Zara smiled, the first truly happy expression Jake had seen from her. Then you will teach them to appreciate jazz music until they agree to cooperate. The laughter that followed broke much of the remaining tension in the room. As the formal negotiations continued, Jake found himself standing with Zara by the window, looking out at the Colorado mountains where her ship had crashed just weeks earlier. So you're really staying? He asked. I am home now, Zara replied simply. My people severed me from the Reach, but your people gave me a new family. Besides, someone needs to serve as Earth's ambassador to the galaxy, and someone needs to keep teaching humans how to think like aliens when we need to. I think, Jake Morrison, that humans will teach the galaxy more than the galaxy teaches humans. Jake smiled. We'll see. We're pretty good at learning new things. Yes, Zara said, looking up at the stars that no longer seemed so distant. That is exactly what makes you special. 6 months later, the former Deep Space Monitoring Station had been transformed into Earth's Interstellar Relations Center. Ships from dozens of species arrived daily, their pilots and crews eager to experience the planet where creativity had defeated perfection. Jake, now Director of Human-Alien Relations, often worked late into the night coordinating projects between human innovators and alien scientists. The solutions they developed together were unlike anything either species could have created alone. Zara had become Earth's most popular alien resident, appearing on television shows, teaching at universities, and helping translate not just languages but entire ways of thinking between humans and their new galactic neighbors, the alien woman who hadn't meant to enter. Earth's atmosphere had indeed chosen never to leave. Her accidental arrival had opened a door between worlds that would remain open forever, transforming both humanity and the eternal reach in ways neither could have imagined. And in research centers across Earth and throughout the galaxy, the most amazing discoveries were being made by teams that combined human chaos with alien order, creating solutions that were perfectly imperfect and beautifully functional. The universe had become a much more interesting place, and everyone agreed that was exactly what it needed.